That's too high. Hey guys, trying to get my microphone set up here for my very imperfect way of doing it. Okay. How are you all today? Brought to you today by Ghost Energy Drink. And this is the best flavor ever. It is Welch's grape and it tastes just like sparkling grape juice. So getting my mid-afternoon caffeine rush in. Good to see you all. Okay. Hey, Celine. Hey, Nicole. All right, we're going to get right into it because I have some errands to run as soon as I am done. So good to see you all on this Monday. It was like 55 degrees here in Illinois, which is crazy for the time of year that we are in, but I will take it. My chickens and ducks were enjoying it for sure. Sorry, Nicole. It is 3 is my slump of the day. 3 o'clock is my slump. So I either get a coffee on the way over here, but I had not had a Ghost yet. So Chloe was off running errands and I asked her to please stop and get me a Ghost. And she got me my favorite flavor. So I drank that on the way over here. So let's get into the topic for today. I know this is one that a lot of us can relate to because we all have conflict in our lives. We have conflict with coworkers, bosses, friends, other Christians, those in the world, and family conflicts. We can't escape conflict. And, stress and conflict is not bad sometimes because it does force us out of our comfort zone. Sometimes it does make us be better people. It's someone that never has any conflict in their life. They're probably pretty spoiled and, probably pretty selfish and all those things. So and conflict is not always bad in every sense of the word. We can't escape conflict in our life. We can try to limit the conflict in our lives and especially make our homes peaceful rather than a battlefield. And that's the most important thing. Now, the most important thought that I want to get across today is we should have a home of peace rather than a home of war. And, if you could just have a peaceful home, you're going to raise happy, balanced kids. So, hey, Rachel. Hey, Shara. Hey, Ashley. So now, Shara, you guys are getting the weather that we had like 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, when we left for Florida, we left on a Tuesday and it was -16 when we left. I was like, can planes even fly when it's this cold? I was legitimately worried, but it was fine because it wasn't icy or anything. The skies were clear. It was just super, super, super cold. And then that lasted about 4 or 5 days and we were gone for all of it, except when we were in Florida, it was only like 40 degrees. It was crazy. And we came back to like the same weather that was in Florida because then we hit 40s and then today we were in the 50s, which is crazy for February. So you're probably getting like that cold front. It just took a little bit longer to get up there. Hey, Jen. So anyways, back to issue. If I could just get across the thought that your home should be peaceful and not a battlefield, I will have accomplished what I want to accomplish today. Today, I want to go over some ways to reduce conflict in your life and give you practical tips for dealing with unwanted conflict. Okay, so number one, obviously the most important thing I think for women my age or younger when it comes to the home is your marriage. I do believe strongly in working on your marriage. And I believe that if you have a peaceful marriage, overall, you're going to have a peaceful home. So that's kind of the first place I look when I have women email me about just being completely stressed out about their lives or, stuff going on that they want to eliminate. I always zero in on the marriage first because most conflict and most stress stems from conflict in marriage. So realize that a lot of conflict in marriage is avoidable. Okay. And I do feel as if sometimes women, maybe it's that time of month, maybe we're just itching for a fight. I don't know. But I do feel that women are a lot more, most women, I'm not saying like there are some feminine men out there. I am not married to one like this. So, but I have heard stories. Okay. I'll just put it that way. I've heard stories of very like feely men who are just super emotional. And, just be careful that when you're dating someone, you should be able to tell if a guy is emotionally needy or not when you're dating them. So if you don't want to be dealing with that years after marriage, don't go into it thinking that you're going to change them, because it's probably not going to happen. But I think as women, we especially sometimes try to instigate fights, or we try to start fights based off of our mood, and our husband just tends to be the target a lot of times. So be careful about that. Realize that most conflict is avoidable. I know me personally, I don't like fighting with my husband. Have you seen those memes where it's like, I hate it when my husband and I fight? He's like my only friend. So no, and I have a lot more friends than just my husband. But my husband is my closest friend, overall. And you live with each other. You don't want it to be constantly filled with tension and strife, and you have to walk on eggshells. So realize that most conflict is avoidable. And this comes by number one, learning each other very well. I was just telling my husband last night, I was like, I don't understand women or men who like hit our age. Like we're right in the middle of the age where midlife crises happen. So being in our mid 40s now, I was like, I don't understand being in your mid 40s and like getting divorced or thinking that your marriage is boring. You need to find someone better. And so you move on and then you start this whole process and getting to know each other all over again. And I was just like, babe, you are stuck with me for life. Like, I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. And we're stuck with each other because we're at a place now where it's almost easy being married. And I've learned a lot. I was just talking to my daughter, Abigail, about this yesterday because she's in a phase of her life where marriage might be potentially down the road. And I was telling her, I was like, I can only hope and pray that you have as good of a marriage as your dad and I have. I said, I will tell you though, I look back when I was your age, I got married at 20, she's 20. And I said, I got married at 20 and I was kind of a brat back then. So I've learned a lot since that time. You think you know what marriage is going to be like until you actually get married. And then you realize that it's a lot of putting someone else's needs above your own, thinking of someone else before yourself, um, really sacrificing your will and your stubbornness or whatever it is. And it's about not being selfish for both people, not just me, my husband as well. He's had to, he's built his whole life around me and our kids. So marriage is a lot. And then you have kids. And then it's like, wow, I thought marriage was hard. This is even harder. And then you have to raise those kids, and every kid has individual needs and every kid is different. And then it's figuring out how they work and how they tick. And, and every kid needs something different from you. So at the end of the day, being married and having children is, I believe, the best way for us to deepen our Christianity and to deepen our relationship with the Lord, because it really shows us a lot about who we are as people. It shows us our weaknesses. It shows us how much we depend on the Lord to get us through each day, and how much we need his guidance in our life, and how much we need his strength. So at the end of the day, marriage and having children is by far the most difficult thing that you can choose, but it also has the biggest blessings, especially if you do it right, especially if you surrender your will and you are moldable to what God wants you to be. And I do think that it's easier to do that when you get married young, because when you're young, you're really not like set in kind of your way of life. And when you're getting into your 30s and 40s and you haven't been married yet, you're used to just living life by the seat of your pants, not having to build your life around all this responsibility of pleasing another person and, raising children. So it's a good thing I've seen. Maybe it comes from experience because I was married young, but it is a good thing to get married, I believe, in your 20s before you're really, really like established in a life on your own. But yeah, learn each other well, stay away from hot button issues. And that's one thing I've learned. Do I really want to fight? No. Like those flow charts that you see. Do I really want to fight? No. Every answer goes down here. Okay. Don't push the hot button things. When you're really tired, don't try to start that time to figure everything out. Wait until you're refreshed. It's the morning. It's whatever. Don't do it right when he gets back from home. He needs to have like, a happy greeting and a happy wife and happy kids when he comes home. He doesn't want to sit down, take his shoes off, and suddenly he has all these problems to figure out. So stay away from hot button issues. De-escalate the situation. If either of you is in a rotten mood, that's not the time for a heart to heart. That's probably one of the worst times. I've learned through the years that there are ways to approach issues that need to be dealt with. And there will be issues that pop up in your marriage. And it's really good to work through those. It's good to communicate through those. I do think a lack of communication is the biggest killer of a marriage. Lack of communication and hidden sin. Those are kind of the two biggest killers of a marriage. Now, if sin becomes unhidden and you are able to work through that and communicate through that and be under accountability and a good pastor, someone who can counsel you through that, that's really good. And, I definitely think you should try to work through whatever issues come up, whatever hidden sin comes up. I do believe in death until, or marriage until death. That's my belief. I believe God designed it that way. I believe that's the way to have the most beautiful relationship. So that is my belief on that. But, the way that you talk to each other does matter. Respect your husband and talk to him respectfully. Obviously, it's going to cause a lot more conflict in the home if you are just like, if you're horrible to him, if you're treating him like a child, if you're talking down to him, if you're using foul language at him, if you're calling him names, and the same in reverse too. If your husband is talking down to you like you're a child, because you're not a child. Husband and wife, they are equal in a marriage, yet they have different responsibilities, if that makes sense. Obviously, I believe the husband is the head of the home. I believe wives should follow their husbands, and there is that authority structure. So it's kind of helped me out, honestly, with my kids, because I often will just have to tell them, Dad said no, sorry. And it's on him, not me. So I kind of like that part of marriage. We refer to Dad with whatever decision comes up. If I know my husband's not going to like it, I don't even pursue it. And we've been married so long now, someone can suggest something or one of my kids can ask to do something, and I know exactly what their dad's going to say. And so I'll be like, I don't think your dad would care. Go ahead. And he, I'm usually dead on. I very barely ever call it wrong. But if I'm in doubt, I will tell them, text your dad. Call your dad, ask your dad. And it takes a lot of the pressure off of me. So, just own up to your mistakes. If you do something really stupid, like crash your husband's car into a brick wall, just tell him, I am so sorry. I, hit the accelerator instead of the brake, whatever, just own up to your mistakes. If you find yourself going back to the same issue over and over and over, figure it out and move on. Husbands hate it when you bring up, at least mine does. Okay. I'm going to speak generally. Let me give this disclaimer. Your husband's not my husband. I'm only giving advice that's helped with my husband. If your husband wants you to do something different, then listen to him, not me. Disclaimer for the day. There you go. But my husband hates it when you constantly bring up the same thing over and over and over again. He's like, didn't we figure this out last week? Why are you bringing this up again? Like, I thought we already figured this out. So me as a wife, one of the ways that I can bring peace to my home is we deal with the subject. Okay, I don't like the way that you talk to me. Can we please talk about this? I felt like you put me down. And I've also noticed too, when it comes to disagreements, it's a lot better when I say, this made me feel this way. And instead of saying things like, you're such a jerk, you're mean, you're hurtful, no, focus on the way that made you feel. It made me feel this way when you acted this way in response to something I said. It made me feel this way, because you're letting him know about your feelings and what was going on when he did something. So, the way that you talk to him means a lot. The way you phrase it means a lot. Just deal with the issue and then move on. So that's advice I'm giving you from someone who's been married a couple decades. Your arms should be a place of peace and refuge from the storms of the world. There should be a time and place for bringing things up that need to be worked out. But oftentimes, that time and place is not at midnight 1 o'clock in the morning. There was, Ashley gave me a tip about maybe doing a show about advice that I was giving as a young mom that I didn't do. And that's a really good idea because one of the pieces of advice I was given as a newlywed was don't go to sleep or don't go to bed until you have until like you like fight until you get it figured out. Well, I went into marriage thinking that I had to figure this out today. Like, don't let the sun go down upon your wrath. After a few years, what worked best for us was we're going to sleep. We'll figure this out in the morning. Because at the time, up until only about 5 years ago, my husband has worked. Well, I mean, there was like a couple years when we were at our former church lighthouse where he was full time at there. But then once we moved here to start the church 13 years ago, he got a job. And his job, he had to be there, was it 3 a.m., 3 or 4:30 a.m., something like that in the morning. So for me to keep him up till midnight, going over issues, trying to hash things out, that was terrible for me to do to him, first of all, because then he would only get a few hours of sleep. He wouldn't be sleeping as well if he did fall asleep because we had just been fighting or whatever. And then he'd have to get up and he'd be at work and this would be replaying in his head. So I quickly learned, I'm like, Cassandra, you can't keep doing this. Like, he hates it when we are fighting till midnight. I cannot remember the last time. It's been years since we've stayed up super late. We learned, okay, let's roll over, backs to each other, go to sleep. And when we wake up in the morning, tomorrow afternoon, we will figure this out. It wasn't usually in the morning because he usually leaves before I wake up, but we will figure this out. And it has been so much simpler since then. It has been so much better since then. And he's much happier. I'm much happier. And I'm telling you, when it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, you have the potential to say some really hurtful things. And, you have the potential to pick on each other's personalities and just say things that you probably wouldn't say at 3 p.m. So coming from an older, I'm not even that old, but whatever. Coming from someone who's been married a couple decades, go to sleep on it, wake up, figure it out the next day because marriage is for life. You have your entire life to figure it out. So you don't need to be figuring it out at 1 o'clock in the morning. That is not beneficial to the husband who has to get up early to go to work. That's not beneficial to you who might be up off and on nursing a baby, who has to get up early with the little kids. Go to sleep. Sleep on it. You'll be a lot happier. Remember that a soft answer turns away wrath. This is another thing I have learned, and I'm much better about it now. I'm not perfect, but if my husband does something to me that offends me, it goes a lot better if I calmly tell him what my issue is. In times past, when I was a new bride, I would get very snippy and I would return fire for fire. Fine, you're going to be that way about me. I'm going to tell you off. That's not smart to do. First of all, then pride sets in and you start getting really upset and you both start going at it. And then there's yelling. Well, there was never really yelling with us. We don't, when it comes to my husband, my oldest son says he can't even remember a time when we fought. We've argued and stuff in front of the kids, but yelling, screaming, throwing things, that doesn't happen in our home. It does not happen in the McMurtry home. That was something that I kind of saw a little bit growing up and my mom regrets it now, but I never wanted that for my kids. So I've been really careful. And a lot of times when we've had arguments, we reserve it for in our bedroom at night when the kids are asleep. Before midnight. I'm talking about like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, but you have to know when not to let it go any further, when it's just time. We're not going to work through this tonight. Let's go to sleep. So you just have to kind of figure out when that is. Find out what your husband needs from you and fulfill those. Now, these things, yes, Nicole, I agree. Our worst fights happened at 2 a.m. It's a horrible time. Just don't do it. Take it from me and Nicole. Don't do it. So, my husband's needs, these are what are important to my husband. Your husband is going to have a different list, but ask him, say, babe is what we call each other, but say, babe, I really want to know what are some ways I make you feel loved. And then you might be surprised at the list. Okay. And you kind of just sort of learn to figure this out, as you're married longer. It did take me a little bit of time. It takes you a long time to learn someone, to really, really learn someone. And you have the rest of your life to do it. So it's okay. Take it slow. But These are the needs. These are what's important to my husband. And I found that as long as I get these few things in my life, as long as I keep on top of it, we are very happy. There's like barely any bumps in the road. I mean, arguments are few and far between. They very rarely happen. Not to say they did not when we were younger. Okay. I was a little bit of a spitfire brat when we were younger. I'm just saying I was. I think most 20-year-old newlywed brides are. But these are what are this is what's important to my husband. My kids taken care of. So bathed, clean, fed, and they're being homeschooled. They're getting school done. That was from the time we started having kids. My husband told me, he said, okay, if we're going to homeschool, which for when we were at Lighthouse, they went to the Christian school there. So it was when we started this church 13 years ago. We went from having them in the Christian school to where he was. He was there every day. He was like the principal or whatever. It went to homeschooling. And he told me when I started homeschooling, he said, this has to be priority. I do not want my kids getting behind me because I've seen a lot of pastors' families where they went to start a work, like missionaries went to start a church or church planners started a church. He's like, and they just like gave up school. And school took a back seat. And he's like, that's not going to be my kids. I want you to stay on top of it. And I have. It's very, very, very much a priority in my home. School gets done every day. So my kids taken care of. The house under control. When I say under control, I don't mean it's pristine and it looks like no one lives there. No, my house is a comfortable. It's comfortable. It's not perfectly clean at all times because we have a lot of people that live there and we have a toddler that's a tornado that lives there. And her biggest thing she loves doing is building forts and houses. And that's what she loves to do. So we're going to have a little bit of clutter, a little bit of forts and houses all over the place. And that's fine. I'm happy because she's happy. So I'm talking about dishes done, floors swept, laundry done, you know, the main things, bathrooms, not a pigsty, you know, the main things. It's a good clean. It's not pristine clean, but it's a good clean. It's the type of clean where I don't mind having people over, but they're not going to walk in and be like, oh my goodness, your baseboards are sparkling. Your fans are so completely dusted off. No, I might have grimy baseboards because we live in the country and we have chickens and there's mud and it gets tracked in. And my fans probably have dust on them. So it's not perfect, but it's where I'm not embarrassed to have people over. Physical needs taken care of. So for him, that is meals. Food is definitely a way to his stomach. More importantly, steak, if I make that. Hey, as a wife, you learn your husband's love language, and you also learn that he's going to be in a lot better mood with a steak in his belly. Let's say you want to take that shopping trip with your friends, or you want to go drive 5 hours away to meet a friend, or you want to fly to go see your sister. He's going to be really open to that when his belly is full of steak. Just saying. You learn, you have little ways. As a woman, you hold a lot of power on your hands if you use it right. So intimacy for my husband is very important. And then clean clothes. So one of the triggers actually, because I feel like I'm always doing laundry, like every day we're doing laundry. And so I get, especially when I was younger, we get very offended if he would say anything about the clothes. Like, I can't find socks. I can't find underwear. I would get very offended. Well, he's just kind of learned not to say things about the laundry, but I've learned that he needs to have clean laundry because it's one thing that annoys him greatly when he doesn't have clean laundry. So we both try our best in that area. And then time with me is important to him. Oftentimes he wants to go to the gym with me and we don't even work out together. Like he'll do CrossFit and I'll be on the treadmill and the strength training in the other part of the gym. And he'll be like, are you going to the gym with me? I'll be like, no, I have too much to do. And he'll be like, oh, come on. I'm like, well, if you really want me to go, I'll go with you. But he just likes me being with him, you know, so that's important to him as well. So all those things are important to my husband. So I try to make them priority. And it leads to less conflict in our home. It leads to a peaceful home. You know, resolve conflict quickly. Don't let it drag on and on. Please, you know, even if you have to go to sleep on it, get it resolved the next day because kids pick up on the tension. Kids know when mom and dad are arguing. Kids can feel the invisible friction between you as much as you try to hide it. And that really makes them nervous. It could give them stomach problems. It makes them fearful of our mom and dad are going to get a divorce. What's going on? Why won't they stop fighting? And Kids really need the security of mom and dad being united, mom and dad being in love, mom and dad being friends, mom and dad being on the same page. Kids really, really need that. So overall, one of the biggest ways of bringing peace to your home is having a good marriage with your husband and working through all of these things. So, okay, so how do we resolve or how do we limit conflict when it comes to our kids? Well, my biggest tip when it comes to this is don't make everything into a battle. I have seen homes where everything is a fight. No, you can't wear nail polish until you're 18 years old. It's a huge fight. No, you can't wear makeup. No, you can't have your ears pierced. No, you can't do this. And everything gets turned into a battle, and there's constant arguing and fighting over stuff that isn't even important. Who cares if your 5-year-old wants to wear nail polish? It's not a big deal. And I remember times when I was younger where it was simple things like when I got to shave my legs, right? Like that was a huge thing. And I had to ask and beg and beg and beg for years before my mom would let me. And maybe with some moms, it's like it's sad to them because they see their baby girl growing up, right? Like she wants to wear makeup now and she wants to shave her legs and she wants to do this. But for me, I don't know. I just decided when I started having kids that I'm only going to make the big things a battle. The big things for me is dress standards. And we have never had a kid buck us when it comes to this, like a girl. And we have a lot of girls. But there's just an unwritten rule in our home. We're going to dress a certain way. And my kids don't push that. They don't push that boundary. So that was going to be a big thing. Dating was going to be another thing. We were going to have chaperone dating. My kids were going to date the right way because I want my kids to go down the marriage altar pure. Okay. So that's very, very important to us as a family. So clothing standards, dating, also music is a big thing. No Taylor Swift in the home, no worldly music. We will only play God honoring music in our home. And then also things like R-rated movies, not allowed, different things like that. So those are the things that like I'll fight over. But I don't know. It's weird because there's not really been any fights about it in my home. So I don't know. It's just like maybe my kids just know like we don't even try because this is a non-negotiable. Now, things that have been negotiable are petty things like makeup, fingernail polish, the style. Okay, so Allie has a really cute, quirky style. She loves Converse shoes. And she comes up with the most adorable outfits that I necessarily wouldn't wear, but they're so cute and they're flattering and they're stylish and they're her style. They're Allie style. You would have to see it. And there's nothing sinful or immodest about it. So whereas like I wouldn't dress that way, I'm not going to pick on her. I think it's adorable. And, we allow our children basically free choice in the styles that they choose as long as they fit in a certain parameter. And obviously for our family, we don't wear pants. Our girls don't wear pants. We do think that we need to look distinctly feminine. And in today's day and world, femininity is a woman in a skirt. It's one of those things where people still look cross-eyed at a guy that tries putting a skirt on. So for us, we just don't have pants in our house. We don't wear pants out in public like that. So that's one of the things for us. And then the other things that I mentioned. But what do you want your kids to remember most about you? Do you want your kids to remember a raving lunatic who's screaming at the top of her lungs and throwing things and, cutting them down, belittling them? I don't want my kids to think, when they think of good old mom, I don't want them to think of this raving lunatic woman. So keep that in first and foremost in your head. What do you want your kids to remember most about you? Think back to some of your favorite memories of your own mom and then take those and build on that. Try to do that for your children. Forgive your kids and move on. Don't keep a list of offenses. I feel like some parents, maybe it's just this mindset, but I feel like some parents just have like this running list of offenses and then they bring it out whenever they need to. And this can work against your husband, against your kids, against your friends. Lots of people can get this way. But as Christians, we are commanded to forgive. We're commanded to just let offenses be and move on. And so do that with your family. Have set rules, like I talked about the non-negotiables, but then you can have wiggle room with other rules. Teach them that some things are family matters and don't need to be broadcast. And if I've ever had an argument with my children or we've had a battle, that's not something I'm going to go on the show or online on Facebook and like do a post about it. There's some things that are just private. I still to this day have never once called up my mom and told her when my husband and I have been arguing. I determined from the start of my marriage, I would not ever bring friends, even friends. Like I don't even tell my friends when I'm having an argument with my husband. I've determined I'm not going to bring a third party into disagreements with my kids or my husband because I love my husband. I am with him till death do us part. But my mom, if she thinks that Tom is being petty, she's going to have a really hard time forgiving him where I'm not. I'm going to forget about it by the next day. I can move on. My mom might not be able to because she's always going to be on my side because I'm her daughter, right? So family members have a way of being on the side of their child or whatever, their sibling, whatever. And so obviously same thing with my friend. She's going to be on my side. She's not going to be on my husband's side. So where I've moved on, they now are remembering this and holding stuff against my husband. And I don't want that. So I've always kept disagreements between the person that I'm disagreeing with. And I've never told my mom about an argument. I've never told family members about an argument I've had with my husband or something because I know we're going to work through it. And I'm going to forget and move on, but they might not. So teach them that siblings are friends they're going to have for life and try to foster a strong bond between your kids. And that's one thing I've tried to tell my kids. Nothing makes me happier seeing my adult kids choose to spend time with each other. I love it. And I love that they're close. And it just makes my heart so happy. Battle when necessary, your children, but battle in the right way. Okay, so what are some ways? Well, don't yell or scream to get your point across. You don't need to yell or scream. Don't tear them down or belittle them just because they have a different opinion than you. Don't call them names. Have unmovable lines, but try to see things from their point of view and understand where they are coming from. Remember, they are a person of their own, and they might do things differently than you. And if it's not a sin, it's okay. They might choose a different career than you would have chosen for them. They might choose to have different hobbies and different interests. They might choose to spend their money in different ways than you would spend. It's okay. They don't need to do everything exactly the way we think they should. And then with your in-law kids, don't give advice that's not asked for. Stay out of their business. Stay out of their fights. Stay out of their conflict. I'm like telling all my in-law kids that I get, I don't want to know when you guys are fighting. Just work it out. You'll be fine, but don't tell me about it. I don't want to know about it. I will not get involved. Sorry, I'm not interested. Maybe it's because I never brought my in-laws into anything or even my parents or, my siblings into anything that was going on in my life. But some things are just private. And that's one of the things that's private. So, but how do we deal with outside conflict? So we all have outside conflict, whether this comes from if you're a woman and you have a job, from your boss. I will say the few jobs that I've worked since being married have mainly been in a fine arts setting. So I will say that I've never really had conflict in any place of employment because it's just a really high class of people, I guess. It's mainly other musicians and teachers, and there's always just been kind of a camaraderie there. There's never been really conflict when it came to that. But you're going to have outside conflict sometimes. Just consider the source when people are throwing conflict your way. Okay, think to yourself, is this someone's opinion that I really care about? What is the fruit in their own life? If it's terrible and they're criticizing me for my fruit, don't care about them. Don't care what they're saying about me. If you are standing on principle, don't back down. If you decide to take a stand on something, whether that is a no alcohol stand or a no drama stand or a no fornication stand or whatever it is, whatever you choose to do, don't back down. If it's online conflict, you don't have to be involved in that. If it's causing you stress and it's just like causing your life to be turned upside down and chaos and I have to leave this comment and I have to get after this person, you can put your phone up. You don't have to watch stuff. You don't have to listen to attacks against you. You can refrain from commenting. It's okay to take a step back. I have found that if I'm involved in some type of situation and it starts like entering my dreams at night, and that means I'm thinking about it too much and I need to step back. I need to just take a breather. And there's things that we need to do for our own mental health. And that might be one of the things. If outside conflict is getting to you, put it away, because at the end of the day, it's your family that matters. It's what goes on in the four walls of your home that matters. The outside stuff is just background chatter. So you don't need it in your life if it's sucking you in or it's, bringing you down. If it's sucking all your time away, step back. You don't have time for that. Remember, the online world is not reality. The online world does not show what goes on in your home. The online world does not show, just personal things like the way your kids react to you, the way your kids love you, the way your husband loves you, the way your relationship works. The online world doesn't show any of that. Everyone always puts their best foot forward on the online world, and anyone can say anything. I can claim anything, but at the end of the day, it doesn't make it truth. So rely on what people around you see. Rely on what people around you are saying. You can block, delete, and silence the voices being nasty. I've told my husband this often because sometimes all of a sudden someone will start texting him and I'm like, seriously, like, why haven't they moved on? They need to leave you alone. I'm like, you can block them, and he mainly sees it as a form of entertainment because it's pretty hilarious hearing the things that people say about us sometimes. But for me, nope. I'm not dealing with that. I'm not going to sit there and read rants against me and lies against me. So I'm just going to block. I'm just going to delete because I don't have time for that in my life. And that's the way I choose to deal with that. I've also chosen with certain people to completely ignore. If they say anything to me publicly or online, I'm going to completely ignore it, because to interact would be to give them a little bit of power in a way, because it's showing them that they have an effect on me and they really don't. So I'm not going to give them the pleasure of interacting with them in that way. So I just ignore and block. I have a lot of people blocked on social media. A lot of people blocked, but that's just how I choose to deal with it. You can stand on principle and what's right or wrong without being a jerk. You don't have to insult someone's looks. You don't have to tear them down. You don't have to call them names. You don't have to use foul language. You can be classy and you can approach things with grace and finesse and intellect. Okay. I am so against profanity. Number one, because I believe it's the language of the world. But number two, because I believe it is intellectually lower to use foul language, because you can't think up a better word than what you're using. You can't think up a better word than the F-bomb. Really? Okay. I don't understand that at all, because I could think of a lot better things and a lot smarter things to say in place of the F-bomb. So you can be pleasant, you can be kind but firm when standing on principle, and you don't have to be a jerk. You don't have to resort to name calling. You don't have to resort to profanity. You don't have to resort to mocking someone's looks or appearance or eyebrows or nose or anything. You don't have to be that way. You can rise above that. So, but what about conflict within a church? Okay, because we're all going to have conflict within the church. It's inevitable. You've got all these maybe 100 people that have different personalities and different strengths and different weaknesses and different personalities and different backgrounds all coming together, and they need to be united. It always seems like there's offenses that come, feelings get hurt, and conflict arises. Conflict often arises from a sense of pride or just a sense of thinking you're better than someone. And so that's you go around tearing them down to other people. You don't go to the person that can fix things, which is usually the pastor or those in leadership. Instead, you go around trying to get people on your side in the background, and then that causes conflict. So number one, when it comes to conflict within a church, be unoffendable. Okay. I literally laugh when people will text me and they'll be like, I don't want to offend you, but can I ask you this? And then it's like something so simple, like, I don't even know of an example, but I hope you're not offended when I say this. And then they'll say like the chillest thing ever. And I'm like, okay, first of all, I'm not even offendable. Second of all, that was like so chill. Why are you afraid of asking me that? But yeah, I've tried really hard to be unoffendable. You can speak truth in a kind way. And I do think that pays a big difference. When I've had people give me constructive criticism in the past about anything, whether that's my looks, whether that's the way I run this channel, whether that's the way I do piano lessons, if someone has kind constructive criticism, I am all for that, because I am someone who's a type A personality, and I want to get better at things, right? I want to be better at this show. I want to be better at my piano academy. I want to be a better homeschool mom. I want to be a better mom. I want to be a better wife. So if you have something that's coming from a heart of love, I'm more apt to listen to you. I'm giving her another shout out, but I really like this lady. I know we are so completely different in so many ways, but we're a lot alike in personality in other ways. My friend from London, when she first reached out to me, she was she put it forth what she was reaching out to me. I'm not going to discuss that here, but what she was reaching out to me was kind of a sensitive subject. And she was very timid in how she approached it. And I was like, listen, I'm not going to be offended. It's fine that you think this. And you can, at the end of the day, you can all have your own opinions. That's, it's fine if you think that way. And it's fine if it's different than mine. But through just that, two completely different women with two completely different mindsets, right? On two different countries, completely on opposite sides of the world, we're able to just find common ground, and talk about things that interest both of us, and it was because she approached me when she first emailed me. She approached me in a kind manner. She wasn't like, I've noticed this about you, and I think you're this way, and if you don't agree with me, you're a pond scum. She wasn't like that. She did it in a kind way. So there are different ways that you can approach things. Be diplomatic. I call it being diplomatic. But politicians get to where they are because they have a way with words, and they have a way with phrasing things, and they have a way of winning people's opinions. So you don't have to be a politician, but you also don't have to be a jerk when approaching different things in church. Don't go to extremes. Don't call names. Don't give absolutes such as you always act this way and you always act that way, or you never act this way and you never act that way. I, for one, don't like being told that, because it's not even humanly possible to always be a certain way or never do a certain thing, right? So it's not even, I guess for me, I like truth. And that's when you go to extremes like that, you're exaggerating, and it's just a lie. So don't lie to me. Let's just, deal with the actual issue. Be the drama-free member. And I say almost everyone at our church is, which is very, very nice. Be the drama-free member. Every time there's drama and you're in the middle of it, there's probably an issue, and you're probably causing a lot of drama to stem from you. If there's a problem, address the leadership of that church. So the last thing you want to do is tell everyone in the church your issues without even telling the one who can fix it or the one who can address it. Always go to the top. If I have a disagreement with someone, I always go to the source. That's just how I handle things. It's stupid going to all the middlemen or trying to figure out, did he say this about me or did he say that about me? No, go right to the source. Don't have a chip on your shoulder. And believe it or not, a lot of people come to church with a chip on their shoulder, just waiting for someone to knock it off. Well, first of all, if you're unoffendable, you're not going to have a chip on your shoulder. Secondly, don't make people walk around on eggshells. Don't make people walk around in eggshells around you. Resolve conflict fast, because it does affect other friends and members. Just like your kids can pick up on conflict between you and your husband, church members can pick up on conflict that's going on. They can feel the tension. I remember after we had a church split 2 years ago now, I don't know, something like that. For a long time, I knew that I was hated. I knew it. And it was over just stupidity. And anyways, I knew that I was. And so every time I would come to church, I was on guard. Like, I felt like if I smiled or laughed, I was going to be judged. And it was really bad. It got very, very, I was having like stomach problems, and it was so tense. And I remember when it finally blew up and the people responsible for it left, thank goodness. The next time I walked into the church, it was like all of this just negativity and tension had completely dissipated. It was gone. And it has been gone since that day. And since then, we've had more families come. We're now back up to what we were before that happened. God built the church again. God always does. And with even just better, better people and people with a good spirit. And that's what we're looking for. It doesn't matter if we have faults. It doesn't matter if we have weaknesses, but if you have the right spirit, that makes all the difference. So if you have a teachable spirit, if you have an unoffendable spirit, if you have a spirit that's just wanting to serve the Lord, wanting to serve in different ministries in here with a good attitude, and you're doing it with the right heart, that's what matters. You don't have to have all the talent in the world. You just have to you have to have the desire for God to use you. And it makes a difference. If you are a drama prone person, if you've been going behind people's backs and backbiting and stabbing them in the back and saying horrible things, making up lies, if you've been doing that, it's going to have an impact on the spirit of the church. People can feel it. So resolve conflict fast because it does affect other friends and members, and then put up with each other's weaknesses. We all have weaknesses. And really, at the end of the day, most church splits are caused over personality conflicts. It's usually never doctrine. They could be 99% on board with the doctrine of this church, but there's a personality conflict, they're gone. So, or they'll try causing problems before and then they're gone. So it's almost always personality conflict. And I think we would do all better in this area if we just stayed in our own lane in the church. Like my husband doesn't try to correct other people's wives because he's not responsible for that. I don't try to correct other people's husbands because that's definitely not my place. I don't try to, train or raise other people's kids, because that's not my place. So if you just don't let that stuff affect you, if all the stuff out of your control, if you don't let it affect you, you're going to be so much better. Everything's going to run smooth. Everyone stays in their own lane. They don't try to control other people. They put up with each other's weaknesses. And you're going to be in unity then in the church. Then how do we deal with conflict with other family members? So be careful, number one, about burning bridges. I've seen this way too often. People are too quick to burn bridges with their parents, with their siblings, with all their family members. And then they are basically stuck with one group of people or one church. And then if they ever cross the pastor of that church or they get kicked out, they're all alone. So be very careful with burning bridges. When it comes to immediate family, you don't have to agree with them, but you don't have to blast them either. Don't do online posts. When you have a family reunion, you don't need to be like, I believe this way. Trump's going to save the world. If that's going to be a hot button issue, just don't go there. And I don't think Trump's going to save the world. But your family can see the difference. Let your testimony speak for itself. Let your fruit speak for itself. Let your kids speak for your methods and how they work. I know when we first started having kids, my family, such as like aunts and uncles and different things like that, they probably thought we were crazy. And here's, Cassandra marrying this crazy pastor or whatever, and they're wearing skirts all the time. What weirdos. But now my kids are turning out so great. I know we've earned a little bit of respect when it comes to that because they've seen, oh, they're not like psychopaths, oh, they had a good home. Oh, their kids like them, so my family's seeing now, you don't have to bring up every little difference when at family functions. You don't have to make everything into a war, into a battle. Don't hold back on your own platforms, and I never have, but refrain from engaging with family members over stupidity. Listen, I have a lot of unsaved, and this is a rule that you have to keep in mind. For any of you that are Baptist, okay, and let's say you're friends with someone, well, I'll use this. Shara was in the thing. I'll kind of use this as an example. Shara did a post or two. I can't remember when it was. Maybe she could, it might not have even been her. It was someone on Facebook, but she had people of a certain group of people that came on there and basically blasted one of her family members over something. And I can also say this from experience. This happened on one of my posts. I did a post about something. One of my cousins from here in town left a comment basically politely disagreeing with me. And I am fine with that. I don't want to have an echo chamber or anything. And I was like, oh, yeah, the good points, whatever. Well, she had someone come on and blast her over it. And it was someone from a certain group. And I was so embarrassed. And she messaged me and she's like, Cassandra, I'm just going to delete my comment because I really did not mean to cause all this controversy and strife. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I said, it's stupid. They shouldn't have gone after you that way. I'm so embarrassed. Just no, I do not agree with them. I don't agree with the way that they attacked you, and that's embarrassing because this is an unsaved cousin. And they completely just muddied up the name Baptist to her. And I know she's thinking, oh my goodness, if this is the way Baptists act, I don't want any part of this. So be very careful disagreeing with people on public posts, especially if they're not saved. What if that family member is working on that person? What if Cheryl was working on that person and then someone came on and they're just like, if this is Christianity, count me out. You have to be so careful. Public forums are great in the sense that we can put our opinion out there. Everyone has a platform. They're also not great, though, in the fact that you don't know the people putting the comments. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know if I had been working on my cousin, trying to give her the gospel, trying to get her to see that my way of life is the best way. And then you come on there blasting her. How embarrassing. So just be very, very careful when it comes to that, especially with family members. And keep that in mind when engaging with other people on their platform. Keep that in mind. Be a pleasant person. Be a pleasant person when it comes to interactions. You don't have to be proven right. Everyone doesn't need to know your opinion when it comes to every little thing. You can keep silent and keep scrolling. You don't want to be known as a nasty person online because oftentimes when you get that reputation, it's really hard to reverse it. Okay. So I've always been really careful, tried to be really careful. Sometimes the flesh gets a hold of me and I do things I shouldn't, but if I have a comment, sometimes I'm like, okay, I need to speak up in this area. I wait on it. Okay. I'll leave. I'll come back to it the next day. And oftentimes I've had time to cool down and reflect a little, and then I'll leave my comment, especially if it's going to be a more serious comment, especially if it's something that I feel needs to be addressed, but maybe it's not good to address it in the heat of the moment. So sometimes it's okay to just step back, think about it, pray about it, find a better to reframe, find a better to, I can't talk, find a way to better frame your words. Okay. So put some thought into it. Don't just bust out with whatever thought is in your head, put some thought into it. And then conflict with friends. This is my last one. This is very short because I honestly don't have much conflict with my friends. Like ever. So I'm careful with who I trust with, I have about 2 friends that I know they're for life. Like I could literally tell them my deepest, darkest secret if I had one. I don't have any, but if I had one, I could tell them and I know they would not look at me any differently. And I have no fear that they would like tell people about it or something. There's been friendships in the past where I've kind of been leery the whole time. Like they weren't like super close friends, but I've been leery, like thinking, I wonder if this will ever be used against me. If trust your gut when it comes to certain things and be very selective in who you're close to. Be careful with who you trust. Be the friend to your friend that you want to be. Let your friends be themselves. Don't try changing them. There's some topics you can agree to disagree with. One of my best friends from 12 years old is totally different on eschatology than me. Totally different. And literally it has zero impact on our friendship. And it never will. She knows I'm different. I know she's different. I don't try to change her and she doesn't try to change me. And we're just like, we believe differently. Oh, well, we're both still going up in the rapture at the same time. That's all that matters. You're saved. I'm saved. Yay. Let's go eat. It's stupid that stuff like that could even separate friendships, but she doesn't try to change me. I don't try to change her. There's just some things we've agreed to disagree on and we don't make it an issue. And then there shouldn't be much conflict with a true friend. Sometimes people just aren't a good fit. And if you're constantly having conflict with someone and you're just like trying to force it to work, I'm going to make this friendship work. Maybe it's not a true friendship. Okay. So Some people are just not a good fit personality wise. It's just not a good fit. And it's the best friendships in my life have happened organically, meaning I didn't go into it like I'm going to be friends with her. We are going to be best friends. I'm going to force her to be my friend. No, that's never happened. It's just happened. Good friendships happen organically because you find some connecting force and you build on that. And then you choose to love each other and you choose to overlook minor differences and just focus on what you like about that person. So I'm like really into loyalty. And I think we all have lines when it comes to different offenses that we can overlook or different offenses that we can put up with. But I have been extremely blessed with the people that I'm close to in my life. And I know that. And I know there's a lot of people in life that don't have what I have. And I am thankful for that. I'm very, very thankful. But with those that I'm close to, it's literally been so easy. There's just no conflict there. So there's not even much I can say about that area because I haven't really dealt with having a close friend where we just like disagree all the time or we're arguing all the time or, if there's people like that, I'm just not close to them. So I can keep them at arm's length and be friendly, but you're not going to see the depths of my heart when, you're always picking a fight with me. So, yep. So anyways, hopefully that was a help, that it will help give you some tips to eliminate some of that conflict in your life. We all have conflict, but at the end of the day, it can either control us or we can use it to help us grow and then try to eliminate it. And I think if you have pretty much conflict-free marriage, it will translate into having more peaceful children, a very peaceful home. So work first on your relationship with your husband, work on your relationship with your kids. Those take precedent over outside relationships and even relationships in the church. Obviously, your family is the most important thing. So anyways, I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to go run some errands, go spend a birthday gift card I got from my mom. And we shall see you next week. It's just the following Monday that I'll be gone. I might record something, but I'd have to record it next week. So I don't know. My life is really busy right now. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, same, Jessica. I don't understand arguing all the time with a friend. To me, that's not a friend. That's why we're all different. Exactly. I don't know. That's not really a friend. It's almost like a frenemy, I guess, if you're just always arguing with them. So, and I do believe iron sharpens iron. But even in that, there's a nice way to disagree. There's a nice way to be like, oh, yeah, I don't see it like that, but I can understand your point of view. I can understand why you would get to that point of view. Right. So, all right. Well, have a great week.